Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the City Council meeting for June 21st for the City of Cannon Falls to order. We have roll call, please.
Ringgold.
Here.
Duncan.
Here.
Gesme.
Here.
Cronenberger.
Here.
Lindell.
Here.
Montgomery.
Here.
Altoff.
Here. Would you rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, agenda. Council have any additions or corrections to the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Motion by Gesme and a second by Lundell to approve the agenda. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, that leads us to public input. Public input is intended to afford the public an opportunity to address concerns to the City Council. The public input will be no longer than 30 minutes in total length, and each speaker will have no more than 3 minutes to speak. Speakers may address topics relevant to the government of the city. Speakers must sign up in advance and must provide their name, address, and the topic they intend to address. Comments must be on topic, respectful, pertinent to city business, and adhere to the applicable data privacy rules. Any speaker that violates these rules will be asked to sit down, and if the speaker refuses to comply, they will be removed from the meeting. Speakers shall not address topics that are the subject of a public hearing. All such comments shall be made at that hearing. The City Council will not generally act on issues raised by the public input, but may choose to schedule consideration of the item on a future agenda. Babe.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you well know, John, I called and I talked to you, and I've tried several times to contact you to no avail, and I'm kind of disappointed in that. In fact, I'm quite disappointed. At last council meeting, you claimed that I said the chief had picked a candidate. Even though you didn't name me, it's still not true. I was complaining about the chief putting together the minutes at the police commission when he's not a member. And the charter clearly states that you should pick a secretary off the commission, and the chief is not one. At last week's police commission meeting, when I attended, and all of a sudden the chief is running the meeting. So it's getting more bizarre yet. The next problem was somebody brought up a candidate and that he was of mixed race. And that threw me back. I mean, I'm a cement man and I'm nowhere near the public generally. But I read and I understand, and that is definitely not proper. Worse yet, the chief didn't say anything about it, and if he's going to be the chairman, he should have said something about it, and then he participated in discussion about that. And Derek, you were there, so you know all about this. And didn't you think that was improper? Completely. I think it's illegal.
Meeting.
What's that?
You missed the beginning of the meeting when we chose a new chairperson. But she asked Jeff to finish running the meeting and she would take over next meeting.
I'm talking about racism. Billy, you're the guy that brought it up, called it racist falls. I did not agree with that at all. And all of a sudden, there it is, right at a police commission meeting, and the police chief is participating. Seemed a little odd to me. And another thing that seems very odd to me is that outside there's a moped that's parked in a no parking zone. I think that's what those stripes mean.
It's actually a motorcycle. Look at the license.
Okay, well, it's parked illegally, I think. What do you think, chief?
Oh,
Oh, well, if you walk out that door and take a look, it's sitting there. It's been sitting there
Oh,
for
my Lord.
years on and on. Just thought I'd mention.
Okay, we'll close the public input, and we'll move to presentations. First presentation we got tonight is the Historical Society. Steve Dablo and Zach is here too.
Yep. Thank you for the time here. Zach's day job, for lack of a better word, is not allowed him to ever be here for a presentation. So I want to present Zach Wareham to everybody who may not know who he is. Now they know who he is, and he's got a presentation to make.
Thanks, guys. I'm happy to be here. This is our 9th installment to pay back the city for the purchase of 212 West Mill Street. And, I'm really happy to be here now. As Steve said, this is the first time that my job has allowed me to come. This puts us at 150,000 paid of 186. So we're really pleased with that, and we hope to contribute another check before the end of the summer.
Keep them coming.
Yep.
keep it, yeah, really.
Thank you, Zach.
Thanks, Zach.
Okay, second is our 2021 audit presentation.
I don't think
Oh,
this
you
will
wanna-
be as
you
much
wanna
fun.
introduce Brad?
Did I say that out loud? This won't be as much fun, I said.
Go ahead.
Thanks for the vote of confidence.
Brad's here with us tonight. He works for Abdul, they're our art firm. He's here to present the 2021 audit, and I'll let Brad take over.
Thank you. Honorable Mayor, council members, I am here. You should have the presentation in your packet along with the management communication and the financial statements themselves. So what I'll go through is the presentation that's in there. I think it's a PDF. It's really just a PDF of the PowerPoint. So through that, and then if there's any questions, we can feel free to ask throughout as we go, or you can save them for the end either way. So either way. So the first slide on that is the introduction. Then I'll go through our auditor's responsibility and the opinion we're issuing on the report. The general fund results, we'll go through the financial results of the general fund, other governmental fund results, enterprise funds, and then some key performance indicators at the end, which will be the exciting part. So as far as the audit results, our auditor's opinion, we are issuing an unmodified or a clean opinion on your financial statements. So to arrive at that opinion, our responsibility is to look at your internal controls, design our tests around those higher risky areas, higher dollar amount areas that we feel will give us comfort as far as we believe everything in the financial statements is materially stated accurately in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So again, we went through it, designed our tests, and we believe or issuing opinion saying that we believe the financial statements are presented in accordance with applicable standards. The state auditor requires us to go through a series of checklists as well. There's 7 checklist items related to different topics. Cash and investments is one, contract and bidding, issuing debt, those types of things. So we'll go through those state statute checklists related to state statutes. And there's anything in there that we would find in non-compliance, we report that in your report on Minnesota legal compliance. We are not reporting any non-compliance issues as well. So clean reports in both financial statements as well as legal compliance reports. As going through those internal controls and designing our tests, if there's anything in those internal controls that we feel should be brought to your attention, we would bring those to your attention as a finding. So on the next slide, we do have one finding, and this is a very common finding of cities of your size with the number of staff you have, just the preparation of the financial statements. So we do prepare the financial statements as part of our audit. Ultimately, it is management's responsibility to prepare the financial statements and our responsibility to audit the financial statements. So we do both in conjunction, and we do both of them probably for 90% of the clients that we work with. So nothing uncommon here. It's just what's in the financial statements is everything that we know. Again, designed around the inquiry that we have with staff. But if there's anything that's been withheld from us, we don't believe there has been. Ultimately, this is putting the responsibility on management for what's in the financial statements. So again, nothing to be alarmed about. It's just something that it's kind of a responsibility thing. All that, now we'll get into the results. So this slide, general fund balances. On this slide, we have the top line is your budget, annual budget for each year. The next line down is your actual fund balance, year-end fund balance, and then the shaded area right underneath that is your fund balance policy. So that shaded area, you did approve a fund balance policy a number of years ago to keep your fund balance above that 40, or within or above that 40 to 50% reserve levels. So you do have, each of the years presented here, you are well over that 40 to 50% reserve. This year you finished at 81.5%, and that's based on your following year's budget. So 81.5% of your following year's budget you have in reserves within your general fund. How you arrived at that, on the next slide, your budget to actual amounts. You can see your revenues came in about $225,000 over what you'd budgeted. A lot of that had to do with small cities assistance that came in. It was a $71,000 state grant that they don't give you each year. It's kind of I think it has been in the last few years, every other year type of thing, but nothing you really can budget for. So that was the main difference there, along with licensing and permits were $70,000 over budget as well. Expenditures came in pretty close to budget, just being $50,000 under budget, and then, or over budget. And then you did have some transfers there where you transferred in $120,000. Part of that was closing the deputy registrar fund into the general fund this past year. And then you had transfers out of $745,000. So, which were, for the most part, approved through the budget process. So overall increased fund balance, $235,000 over last year. The next slide shows your revenues by source or by type. You can see majority of your revenues in the general fund for general operations are coming from the property tax levies, with just about $2.7 million of revenue coming in from there. You can see the next highest is your intergovernmental. You had a slight decline from 2020 in your intergovernmental revenues. Part of that was you received the CARES money in 2020, which is about $200,000 in that. But that didn't decrease a full $200,000 because you again this year got the small cities funding. So it was kind of offset there. But that's the main reason for the decrease there with your intergovernmental revenues. Next slide is your general fund expenditures. Each one of these categories, for the most part, or the general government, public safety had decreased as far as expenditures from 2020. Public works increase, had higher street utility repairs this past year. Culture and recreation has had steady increases from year to year, and then your other category, that's where those transfers came in. You had $740,000 of transfers out. They were quite a bit higher than in years past. Next slide, your capital project funds. So with these funds, these are funds that are you have set money aside for either projects within the city or capital equipment purchases. So major changes here, fire capital, ended the year with $271,000 deficit in this fund. You did buy the pumper truck this past year. So decreased fund balance there of just about $400,000. Two funds underneath that, there's a $601,000 balance. That's in the water tower restoration fund. It's labeled here incorrectly on your slide, but you did transfer just over $538,000, I believe, into this fund for future water tower improvements, maintenance. Then the third to last fund there at the bottom, 2018 street fund, that ended 2020 with a $205,000 fund balance. You did close that project out this year and transferred those monies out to other funds. So those are kind of the main changes there on those funds. The next slide are your special revenue funds. You have 3 special revenue funds: library, cable television, and fire department operations fund. So these are funds that either have a committed or a restricted revenue source coming into them. So what we look for here is, are your revenues enough to support your expenditures? You can see there's each one of these funds, other than the library, did have positive increases in their fund balances this year. Your library just had a small decrease in fund balance. So definitely nothing to really be concerned with these funds. They are generating and they have sufficient resources to operate. Debt service funds on the next slide, you have just under $4.6 million of bonds outstanding within the governmental funds. These are not including your enterprise funds bonds. So again, what we're looking for here is, do you have enough cash to support your debt service payments? You did prepay your 2012B bonds in 2021, so there will be, throughout the budget process, you'll be looking at how to fund that additional amount that was not available in the fund at the time. Then we get into your enterprise funds, your water fund, the first slide here. Each one of the enterprise funds are going to be presented pretty much the same, so I'll describe how the charts work on this first slide. The top chart in each one of these slides is just looking at your cash operating receipts and comparing that to your operating disbursements in the yellow, plus your debt service requirements for the year. So what we're looking for here is, are your receipts, operating receipts, enough to generate enough operating receipts to meet both your disbursements plus your debt service requirements. So you can see in the water fund, 2018 and 19 are pretty break-even years in this, looking at this analysis, and then 20 and 21 have had receipts above those disbursements and debt. The lower chart in each one of these the enterprise are going to be your cash balances. So you can see for the last 4 years, cash balances were pretty steady between 18 to 20, and then declined in 2021. Again, in that black line in this category is a minimum reserve that we as a firm are recommending you don't fall below for operations. So anything above that line would be available for capital purchases type things. So that black line is 6 months of your operating expenditures plus 100% of your debt service requirements for the year. So why it dropped in 2021, one of your bonds dropped off in 2021. You paid it off this year, so you don't have those debt service requirements the following year. So the disposal fund, similarly with that top chart, receipts have been meeting your disbursements and your debt. Cash balances have stayed fairly steady over the 4 years presented, and again, a bond was paid off in 2021, so that's why that minimum reserve has dropped in 2021. Your reserve in the fund currently is below that minimum, that amount we would recommend you stay above, but definitely with that bond falling off, you're a lot closer to that minimum requirement. What's nice to see about in the sewer fund, you're not seeing any a declining cash in that fund. It's pretty steady, so you're staying fairly even. Ambulance fund on the next slide. Receipts, again, other than 2018, have been meeting your operating disbursements. Then your cash balances increased from 215 in 2020 up to 385 in 2021. So ambulance fund had a positive year as far as cash flow. Stormwater fund, the receipts definitely have been meeting your disbursements and your debt. Ended the year with $626,000 of cash. Your operating receipts and debt aren't as quite as high as your reserve levels. But again, if there's any type of repair in this fund that's going to be paid out of this fund, or a project, stormwater repairs and projects are very expensive as well. So it's good to have a reserve here. It may look like you have quite a bit more than we'd recommend, but again, these capital projects and these funds can utilize that money fairly quickly. So I don't think you have excess in this fund. The deputy registrar, this is the fund again that was closed during the year, so end of the all that cash was transferred out to the general fund and closed out. Last fund here, recycling fund. The receipts have been meeting your disbursements at that top chart, and then we have our cash balances that have steadily been increasing over the last 4 years presented. Overall cash balances on the next chart went from total cash 10.2 million in 2020 up to almost 9 million in 2021. So no real big jumps in each one of these categories. We have the cash broken out into segments on where it's sitting with your general fund, capital project, debt service funds there. So no real jump in any of the funds, just kind of a steady increase in overall. The next slide is the comparison with other cities, your peer groups. So we do have two sets of peer groups, or two peer groups here that we're comparing you to. Class 4 cities, which would be cities of up to 10,000 in population that are presenting their report on the same format as you, a gap basis or accrual basis format. Because there are some cities under 2,500 in population that report on basically a cash basis report. So those are excluded. So that's the class 4 cities in the kind of orangish color. In the yellow bar in these charts are going to be other cities in Goodhue County. And then you'll be the black line in each one of these categories. So tax rates, below your tax rate is below others on average, others in Goodhue County. As far as statewide, though, you're slightly higher than the statewide average of cities of similar size. Taxes per capita, you're right in line with other cities in the county, and then slightly higher again from cities across the state. Page 20, slide 20, this is a good-looking trend for your city as far as debt per capita. It's been decreasing each of the years, and that would be a positive, generally seen as a positive trend in this category. You were quite a bit higher back in 2018 as far as debt per capita. 2021, you're right in line with your peer groups. Next slide, your current expenditures and capital expenditures per capita. Current expenditures, these are just your general operating, taking out debt service expenditures, taking out capital expenditures, just your day-to-day type operating type things. So you're at $953 per resident, where your peer groups in Goodhue County are at $929. So back in 2020, so slightly higher than your peer groups in as far as across the state, as well as others in Goodhue County. Capital expenditures, that's going to fluctuate. You can see in 2018 you had significant projects going on. Since then, haven't had quite as much. 21 certainly higher than 2020, but it's kind of how you've been spending in capital. Next slide, your enterprise funds, water debt service coverage, and your sewer debt service coverage ratio. This is somewhat similar to the previous slide when we talked about the enterprise funds. What we're looking for here is, again, are your operating receipts enough to are you generating enough to pay for your debt and operating costs? So what we want to see here is anything over 100%. You can see you finished for your water 136% and sewer at 111%. So definitely generating enough to cover both your receipts and your operations and debt service requirements. So that is all I have had for you. Certainly take any questions or anything you saw as you went through it.
I always bring this up every year about
Sure.
the water and sewer rates, but you made mention that the water and sewer rates are sufficient to cover costs due to the bonds that were expiring now in 2022, but with the rising prices due to inflation, an increase is probably favorable.
Yeah. I mean, your cash did decline depending on what you have planned for capital in these two funds too. You gotta want to take that into account, how you're going to fund those projects going forward, and are these reserves going to be enough?
We froze the rates for the last 3 years, but we'll talk budget here in about a month, but I think we're going to have to raise them a little bit.
Yeah. Fees are going up across the board, for sure.
I'll just make one comment. When you talked about the stormwater fund, I know there is a lot of money in it, but our next 23 project, we're going to eat a lot of that. We're working in a part of a town that doesn't have storm sewer at all. So you're going to see that fund balance diminish pretty good. So just keep in mind that there's the next two capital projects, reconstruction projects, there's no stormwater in them in that area. So that fund is going to take a hit.
Got a quick one. The Class 4 cities, you said from 2,500 to 10,000?
They're really from up to 10,000. So a lot of the cities under 2,500 do prepare their reports on a cash basis, but some do also prepare it on the accrual basis like you do. So the ones that are preparing on the accrual basis, even under 2,500, are included in your peer group.
Okay.
So-
That peer group, it's, that seems like there's a big difference between a city that's almost 10,000 and one that's, we're at 4.
Yep.
So if they're more than twice the size, I get it. It gives
Yep.
us some comparison. I really like the Goodhue County comparison.
Sure.
But I was just wondering, it's like, is there a way to fine tune that to be more in the 3 to 5 ballpark thousand?
There is, yep, for sure. We have the data.
Anybody else?
Yep.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you.
If we could get a motion to approve the audit, that'd be great.
Okay, motion to approve the audit.
So, second.
Mary Jo. Motion by Pringle, second by Duncan, to approve the audit. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, I got my mic on. Okay, let's get in the consent agenda. Consent agenda items may be adopted under one motion as presented or may be removed for discussion and resolution as council business. For you at home and in the audience, I'll go through the consent agenda. Item A, just and correct claims for the accounting period ending June 16th, 2022. Item B, minute meetings for the June 7th, 2022 City Council meeting. Item C, approve the removal of the ice rink bathroom structure. Item D, approve a tennis court agreement with the Cannon Falls School District. Item E, approve a temporary liquor licenses for the Cannon Falls Bears Baseball Association. Item F, approve a temporary liquor license for VFW Post 4452. Item G, approve a temporary liquor license for the Cannon Valley Fair Board. Item H, the introduction and first reading of ordinance 384, amending the city code, chapter 111, relating to Brewster licensing. Brewer licensing. Licenses. Brewer licenses, let's put it that way. Yeah. Item I, Resolution 2636, adopting the primary and general election judges for 2022 and setting the hourly wages. Is there anything the council would like to bring down? If not, I take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Gesme and a second by Montgomery to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, council business. Item A, the tree and brush pile in the city compost site. Dan, you want to take that?
I'll start this out. At the Finance Committee, there was discussion about our compost pile and our brush pile. It seems like we've got our compost pile kind of in hand and how we're going to recycle that and keep that clean, but we do have a glut of wood and branches now. And no longer is Dakota Wood Grinding coming to town and grinding for free. District Energy is not accepting wood chips outside of the metro area due to the emerald ash borer and all the ash trees that are coming down. So now we're stuck with a yard full of tree branches and logs and stumps. And I did reach out to Showquist Brothers, Clinton Showquist, and they would grind our wood for $30,000 and haul the chips out. After I wrote this memo, I did receive another quote from the Shakopee, Mdewakanton, and Sioux community, and they came in at $4.25 a cubic yard. I asked him, convert that to total cost of the project. He gave me a rough estimate of $90,000. So an option is to close the gates and decide what we're going to do with those wood chips. And if we're going to get the wood ground, are we going to, some communities have gone to just burning. Lake City now has a yard attendant. I think they're open 3 days a week. They license commercial haulers that come in. They have to buy a yearly sticker. Residents dump for free. So those are options that are out there right now. So kind of giving it for discussion.
The controlled burn, that option, did we do that in the past, maybe 2 or 3 years ago?
Well, when I started here in March of '21, they were just finishing up burning the stumps. So after the wood was ground, the chips were hauled, we were stuck with a pile of stumps. So they burned it in the spot where it was all ground. We have an opportunity, you know, if you didn't want to pay for any grinding, you wanted to close the yard, we could do a slow burn. It would take a long time. I don't know if you've driven down to see the pile. It's huge. And it's packed, and
Dan, would we be able, could we close off the part where all the wood is so that local residents could still bring grass clippings and twigs and stuff like that down? Or would that be too difficult?
I think that would be difficult because coming into the yard from either direction, you're going by a wood pile.
I think people would just drop the wood off anyway by the grass clippings.
I know at finance, we discussed the possibility of closing it for now and then maybe have Public Works Committee come up with a plan as to how we can move forward. I know you mentioned Lake City. I kind of like their idea. Yeah, that too. Paying $30,000 for somebody to grind it I think is a waste, especially if we can do some controlled burns over time.
Yeah. And we'd probably have to do it every year too, potentially.
Right.
Because I think
But this could be like a multiple solution answer here, where we're going to have to do the controlled burn and shut it down for a little while. And then when we reopen, we might have to try to control what's coming in because, I've told the story of a resident who tracked somebody, and yes, this is somebody I know. They tracked somebody all the way to Inver Grove Heights that basically had a large commercial-sized trailer, and they said, "Oh, but I did some work in Cannon Falls." So to try to control what's coming in so that we don't see it get abused and filled up so fast again.
It's not an uncommon thing right now outside the metro for yards like ours to start filling up because we all had the free grinding. They used it at District Energy. It was a great plan, win-win-win. But now word has spread that Cannon Falls is the only one that's accepting for free still. So I think, I think the quickest thing would be to shut the gates.
That would certainly be the quickest, yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be the quickest, but then, like I said, some committee, it made sense for Public Works to look at it, come up with some new rules so we can open it as soon as possible for our local citizens.
Absolutely.
Here's what I touched with Dan a little bit on it too, is if we do shut it down, would it be possible if we would put some type of receptacle outside for the homeowners that still want to dump their grass, and then if some, at the end of the day, they could carried in, either with a front end loader or some kind of a thing where they could dump it. We could still keep the gates closed, but grass would still be acceptable, because I know a lot of people in Cannon bring their grass down there all the time, but I think they might have different options with their sticks and their logs.
Of course, you always could possibly run into some abuse even on that. Someone just coming, oh crap, they got the gate closed, I'll just throw it into the dumpster they got sitting out there or something like that.
Yeah.
But people, even if we close it, are going
Still
to,
gonna dump.
they're going to dump it outside the gate. We know that'll happen to a degree, and I know, Dan, we talked a little bit about that at finance, that, yeah, you guys will have to probably scoop up some stuff every day or every other day till we come up with a plan.
Recycling them over by the pool is gonna get.
Well, and that does get misused, but that's another subject.
I did talk with Shelley a little bit about if we ban commercial haulers and just leave the gates open, and we talked, Dan and I, about cameras. And I did talk to a camera person. They make some pretty neat stuff nowadays that it wouldn't be an issue to put a wireless camera down on both ends of them gates and feed it back to our internet in that building in the public workshop. Right now, we don't have enough teeth in our ordinance to, if a commercial business or somebody come in and did some illegal dumping or inappropriate dumping, that we could do anything about it. So one of the things we would have to do is create an ordinance that says blank, 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 can't do this. I don't know. We haven't come up with an idea yet, but right now, if somebody drove in there with a large load with a commercial truck, we can't do nothing about it. So we would have to work on that end too. Otherwise, if they just dumped it, what would we do about it?
Well, right now, if we decided tonight, if we said we got to close it because it's full, I mean, there would be no ordinance there. We just say we can't take anymore, and then we
Right.
have to work on the next step.
Dan, how many truckloads of stuff you think has come in since finance met a week ago?
Well, this week's been pretty slow.
We were lucky.
So,
Hot.
yeah, I think it's been hot. So, some mornings they're there. I'm usually there by 6:15, and the first truck is usually coming down the side road about 6:30 or 7:00.
What were you gonna say, Laura?
Well, it's obviously a great benefit to the people in the community, because I think we've all gotten calls about it. Nobody wants it shut. I know we have to do something, right? But if can we at least restrict, I know we don't have a law or an ordinance, but it's always been the intent that it's for commercial, or for residents of Cannon Falls. In my opinion, whether you have a business in Cannon Falls or you live in Cannon Falls, you're a member of Cannon Falls, so it's your access. Can't we, as a quick, just stop the commercial haulers that aren't from here from coming here? If they're driving from Inver Grove and Hastings and they know they can do it for free, why are we penalizing our own people?
That's a very good point, but
Because now you're also going to have your commercial tree services in town, that if you close that, now they can't do business with our local people. So now you have no service there too.
yep.
So not only can, your residents can't do anything, they can't even get tree work done because the commercial people can't do anything.
It's a frustrating thing, but then how do you differentiate that guy from Inver Grove Heights who comes in, well, I pulled one tree out for someone, I'm just, being devil's advocate here, how do we?
Well, I
How do we
said,
do
short
that?
term, say it's only for people in Cannon Falls. I
Well,
don't
you
care
could
if you
issue
cut
a-
the tree down here.
You could issue a license like they do in Lake City for the locals,
Right.
and then, the rest of them,
To say, yeah.
the logistics of it.
But I think that has to be part of the plan that has to be worked out. Tonight, I feel we have to close it, unfortunately, for a while until we can get something that come to us. Maybe, I don't think we can, does Public Works meet before our next council
Yes.
meeting?
Yeah.
If so, maybe they can come up with something that we can,
Can we put up some better signage maybe? Maybe if we just say local only, maybe people
We'll
will
get
have
the-
good conscience to not use it. I mean,
Well, but that's-
some anyway.
That's still the honor system to a degree, as was said before, if we don't have an ordinance with any teeth. If it just says
It wouldn't
locals.
be,
I-
it wouldn't be enforced necessarily. It would just be,
When's our next council meeting?
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, not for permit,
Yeah.
just for, we could get that up this week.
Danny, is it possible to put up some barriers so that the driveway that goes in between the two fields 3 and 4 gets shut down, and then coming in, because there's still that gate that's more to the east, so that people could get to the rows with black dirt and the grass, and move that tree pile in with the other one, start the slow burn, keep that sequestered so that nobody can get back there, and then the new signage. Is that doable?
Right now, we can close the gate between fields 3 and 4, that yellow gate.
But then to block the road behind it so that people that can go to the east, because it's all connected. So you go into the east, you go drop your grass clippings, can you put some of those cement barricades so that it blocks it so that people can't? And I know we've talked about people going park behind, softball games going on right now. There's probably a dozen cars right by the batting cage.
Yep.
And those will be blocked off.
Right.
Is it possible though to do that, to combine those piles and do the slow burn in that area?
Or does that even matter?
So the wood piles are so big right now, the one that we have to the south. and the
Can't
one that
combine 'em?
they're so packed and big. It's, yeah.
So option one is,
I don't want to close the grass one, if we have to close the wood one, the brush, I mean, that, I guess that's
Cease
okay.
and desist for now, and
But yeah, I mean, the lawn clippings, well, maybe not now because it hasn't rained in a week or two, but that's something people use pretty regularly. So if there's a way we could keep that, but like Matt said, maybe block the little path to the wood pile.
put up a sign that says grass clippings.
Yeah,
only.
put up a
Grass
glass
clipping
clipping only
only
sign, yep.
and then come up with something.
Hopefully the
else
beacon maybe they can put some in there too.
That would be helpful.
Few people read that still.
If they threw a stick in on the pile that, I got a stick, that's not gonna hurt a thing. What you gotta slow down is these big semi trucks or these
Right.
tandem trucks coming in.
Right.
What you guys are talking about, serving your residents, that's what we wanna do.
Yep.
Right.
Right.
And, but we gotta slow that train down. It's terrible. And they're coming from everywhere.
Right.
At the-
That's what you have to stop, in my opinion.
At the end of the day, the city residents are the ones that are gonna have to
You're gonna
pay
pay for it.
for some way to get rid of that brush pile, and they don't wanna pay for that dude from Inver
Right.
Grove.
And 30,000 is an unbudgeted number.
Exactly.
And, so that's coming out of your reserve fund.
Wait, is Brad still here?
Well,
Unfortunately, this thing has reared its head again. We've had it nice for several years, and when they would take it for free. And I remember the day we've had these same conversations about what are we going to do with people bringing in all these piles or all this tree stuff. And I remember writing $25,000, $30,000 checks 15 years ago when they wouldn't take it. And so this issue is popping back up again now that, the Emerald Ash Borer showed up and they got all the wood they want.
Right.
So, and to be honest with you, there wasn't a solution back then either. It's hard. It's a hard decision to try and help your residents. Leave the gates open to serve them when they're done at 8 o'clock at night and they want to bring their grass clippings down and dump them off because they don't want to put them in their garage.
Right.
You open 3 days a week I don't work them 3 days. Now you got the grass clippings still there. So it's hard. They want that service to be open, but we got to somehow figure out a way to limit the use, and it's going to be a hard decision.
well, can we compromise by shutting the one the one gate so the people can still go around for the grass clippings, and Dan, maybe coming up with signage at the closed gate, also at the one they can go in, and then when you come down the street, right when you're about to enter Public Works, a big sign, no truckloads of,
Put grass clippings only.
yeah.
Grass clippings only.
So that way, if they come there, there's space for them to turn around and.
I think another thing that we should do is, camera systems nowadays, for $1,000, you can get a nice camera system, and I think we should be looking at one of them. So if we do get a person that's ignoring us, at least we can call them up and say, hey, that's it. That's enough. Because I think you're going to have it, somebody coming down from the cities, they're not going to go back with a full load.
Yeah.
So I do think we should be picking up a camera system. Not only that, you might catch the guy that's dumping his couch off too, at a point. Or maybe the guy that's breaking down the door.
Yeah.
At Archie Swenson.
Oh, my gosh.
So,
How much action do we want to take here tonight? Because these are all great ideas, cameras, having an attendant there so many days a week. Are we just putting on a Band-Aid right now saying, let's shut it down, and then we'll work
how
out
do you
the
want to go
details later, or?
here's what I would do. Let's go for 2 weeks. Let's get a motion to approve a camera system. Put up a sign that says grass clippings only. And then work on Public Works Commission to get some real rules in place. Close the one gate going north between the two fields. And let's see if we can at least slow this down a little bit.
Like email them?
I think that's a great idea.
And if we can put up, and I know, Dan, you're gonna see some guys coming in.
Yeah. How about no commercial dumping? Is that,
Grass clippings only, no commercial dumps.
Yeah.
And put that sign up.
Well, multiple signs, I would say.
Yeah, but just to the east gate, because we're going to shut down the north, right?
I think you'll stop a lot of them,
Stop a lot that way.
but I don't know. And then let's just come up with a plan, because it's gonna be a hard decision. It's leaving that open, all night long. Yeah, you're gonna get the little guy come in with a small trailer full of brush.
That's not
That's
a
what it's
problem.
for. That's what it's for.
I'm thinking about which gate to close here, and right now we've got both gates open. And I'm thinking we should close that south gate because that's where the commercial ones are used to coming right now and dumping.
Really?
So
Okay.
I'm thinking we should leave that south one shut.
Okay.
Leave the north one open between the two fields because that people can still get around and get to the grass clippings. There is no room to really dump any more trees there. We have logs up and barriers.
Okay.
So, and then just post no commercial dumping.
Grass clippings only for local residents.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, that makes sense to me. Then we'll work on some rules.
I would clarify what you mean by local residents.
Cannon Falls address.
Cannon Falls city residents?
There's a lot of people that don't live in the city proper.
We take a lot of people who come into our police department because they've got a Cannon Falls address. We have to refer them to one of the sheriff's offices. It's just something to think about. Like crazy.
I think that's almost impossible. I mean, I like the idea, but I think that's almost impossible to do.
Well, I think for these next 2 weeks, we're still relying on the honor system no matter what sign we put
No
up.
matter what, so we'll think about that.
So we're still open.
Well,
We're still open.
We're still open for glass.
partly,
Okay.
but I agree with you, Dan, closing the south gate, if that's where the commercial trucks are coming, let's.
That's where they've been used to dumping since January, since February.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
But are
let's,
we really okay with shutting down our local commercial businesses?
well, how many commercial businesses in the city of Cannon Falls?
And this is just temporary.
Yeah, this is just for,
But they work every day. Would it?
Well, but it's also not forever. We've got a kind of a crisis. I mean, those are big piles. And I think if we can get some good rules in place fairly soon, if they can't dump now anyway, really, because there's no room, You know, I don't know. What do you think, Derek? It works.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess, is it the city's responsibility to have a place for these tree removal services to dump their trees?
Not for just them.
You know, it's a private business. They're cutting a tree down.
Could.
You know, does the city have to give them a spot to put it? City's not getting anything out of it. I know we've done it probably forever, but, you know.
And this
It's a
really
poor way
isn't
of looking at it,
forever.
but
I mean, we're talking, Public Works meets in like a week and a half.
July
Oh,
7th,
it's
but
longer
council
than that.
meets before that.
Much longer.
Probably 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Hmm.
No, two, 3, but whatever it is.
But yeah, I mean, if there's no room to put the stuff anyway, then they'd have to have a backup spot. They should have a backup spot, really.
Let's pause and bring it back a step. Do we want about the $30,000 to get it chipped and taken care of? Are we pretty much saying that's not a solution? We'd rather see a slow burn to save money?
I think that's still open for discussion.
I mean, for what's there now.
Yes,
Right,
because that's what's in the agenda tonight.
right. What do you think about that, Matt? Do you think?
I know that we've done the slow burn before. If it saves our residents $30,000, I would say shut that gate and start the burn as controlled and fast as possible. But that's just to save the money and to try to make space so that we can get it back open and running again.
It'll take time. It's big,
You'll have to work with the fire department on.
right?
So in other words, if I had a truckload of stuff, I can't dump it now anyway. Right? If I've got a big truckload of stuff, I'm not dumping now anyway.
Grass clippings?
No, not grass. No, trees. Right? I'm not dumping now anyway. If I'm following the rules.
Right.
There's no rule.
If you're a commercial dumper.
I see that grin on your face. I know. But there's no real good answer.
Right.
It isn't like we can just,
It's tough because we don't have a rule in place that, or an ordinance or anything with any bite in it that,
right.
there's nothing that says residents only.
No.
our website does.
Does our website?
But the only rules I found were from.
It does, I looked.
Rules I found were from back in May of 2020. Some rules were set for material available for residents of Cannon Falls, wood chips and compost. That's the only thing that residents can take out of there. It doesn't say that people can't put stuff there. So,
Well, I still say we got to temporarily at least close the one gate and signage until we can work something out. Because if we leave it open as it is now, we're going to get over the next couple of weeks, more truckloads of stuff in there. Doesn't matter if it's 1 or 2 or 30. It's adding to the pile, and I agree with you, Matt, that asking the city taxpayers to foot the bill to get rid of it should not be a burden on them or us.
You want to make that motion?
Yeah, I'll make that a motion. And also, I want to add to that we look into cameras for down there.
Cameras, it sounds like that's a really good solution.
Second.
Say your motion again.
That we close the south gate, put signage up,
Start a controlled burn?
well, put signs up saying no commercial dumping temporarily, grass clipping zoning, start controlled burn as soon as we can, and look for cameras to help us out to see who's dumping there. And cameras is going to be another subject for some other areas in town too, but, so that's my motion.
So you're just gonna look into cameras? You don't want to give any more?
Well, we can't, well,
I know what you mean.
technically Neil can authorize purchase of cameras because he has a set amount that if he's under that, you can find them, so.
Still want to second that?
Yep.
Okay, there's motion by Bill and a second by Steve. Is there any other discussion on that? All in
Well,
favor?
This is
Oh,
going to sound
Laura?
really odd, but I actually am not opposed to the 30,000, and I know that it's not necessarily the cities or the residents. I mean, I totally agree that why do they have to foot the bill of it, but sometimes, I mean, it's not our fault the Arbor Ash thing happened, right? I mean, we got behind this. I mean, it's a natural thing, or nature, Mother Nature. It's also something the city likes. I like to see it. I don't like to see it closed. I wouldn't be opposed to paying the 30, but I understand everybody else's point.
But we're not fully closing it to local residents if they want to put their grass and stuff there. This is just a temporary measure until we can get something in place.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Carries 5-1. That'll probably be something that'll be brought up at the Public Works here, be the 7th of July, probably. Okay. Second item on council business, Resolution 2635, is set a public hearing for proposed annexation of property owned by Josie Hayes, currently located in the Cannon Falls Township. Diane, you want to take that? Neil?
If you remember last year, we annexed about 12 acres of the Hayes property up on the north end off the end of Viking. This annexation is connected to that 12 acres, and it wraps around back over to 17. It's approximately 44 acres in size. Aaron Smith of Greensmith Builders, in conjunction with Josie Hayes, the property owner, is requesting annexation. They also want to request upon annexation that it be an R3 medium-density residential district. This did get to Planning Commission. They reviewed it and has made a recommendation to the City Council to proceed ahead to set a public hearing. Staff will do the proper postings. There's a 30-day notice to the township that we have to do. And then also at the finance meeting, we did invite Cannon Falls Township board in, and we had I would say a real good conversation about annexation. They did bring some concerns up about some failed developments that we have had. Their point was well taken. You know, they mentioned Sandstone Ridge as one. We all know Sandstone Ridge. Mulva Hills was another, and what was the other one they talked about? There was 3 of them. But point well taken.
Third one was the initial part of.
Oh, this 12 acres.
Yeah.
Yeah. So point well taken. That was their concerns, and that was the meeting at the last annexation that they requested to sit down with council and have the discussion. So that was held also. So we're lining up to request city council. In your package, you'll see there's a concept plan. In there, it shows the bluff lines. It shows a couple cul-de-sacs. It's about 120 some lots in this concept plan. Will it be the preliminary plat when it gets here? It will be real close to that. So what we're asking for tonight is to set a public hearing, and then let me see, it's for PID 28007-0100. And then that public hearing will be on August 2nd. we have to have a 30-day notice to the township, official notice. We've already had conversations with them. So, anything else, Diane?
That's it? Any discussion by the council? Take a motion. Resolution 2635, setting a hearing for the proposed annexation of the property of Josie Hayes in Cannon Falls Township.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Gesme, a second by Montgomery. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, reports. Kyle.
Good evening, City Council and community. I want to start off with, from June 16th through June 19th, Cannon Falls was the featured community on Minnesota 97.5. It is a program called Follow Us on the Road, and very nicely done. You can still go out to the Minnesota 97.5 website and scroll down into the featured communities, and you'll still see our story there. And so they came up and visited Cannon Valley Specialties, Cannon Bell's Coffee and Ice Cream Shop, and Mill Street, and did very nice stories on the whole community as a whole. So our golf tournament was held last Thursday. We had 19 teams. There were 88 gifts and awards sponsored by businesses throughout Cannon Falls area. And that was very, very nice. I will be putting an ad in the Beacon so you can see who donated, who were teams, and just give them that added recognition. The first place team was First Farmers and Merchants. Second place was Community Resource Bank. And third was Country Financial. And so fun was had by all, that's for sure. And I definitely want to do a shout out for Matt Lindell of Lindell Heating and Air Conditioning. He sponsored the lunch and the happy hour.
Wow.
Oh.
And that went over very, very well. So thank you, Matt. Also, our next big event is our open air fair, which is on Thursday, July 14th. Right now, we have 20 vendors. We are still looking for a DJ for the evening, and we need food vendors, food trucks, food vendors, whatever. And so if you know of anyone, please have them contact me, and we'll get them signed up, taken care of, and hopefully we get, to our 40 to 50 vendors for this event. The open air fair, remember, is the street fair. So the vendors are on the sidewalks. No streets are blocked off. All right. And the Cannon Valley Senior Center is looking for volunteers to help them man the gates at the Cannon Valley Fair. So those would be the main gate, the Union Gate, and then also the admissions office right there at the big front gate. And so if you are interested, if you can help, please call Laura Bremer at 263-2136. She's having a really tough time getting these spaces filled. And it's fun. It's actually fun. I've done it for 5 years now. So other than that, as you see, the Main Street sidewalks are getting done. As soon as the tar is in, the flower baskets will go back up on the light poles, and we'll have our flowers back. And so thank you to the sponsors who have come in and given for those flower baskets. Any questions or comments? I want to thank Laura for helping on the Minnesota 97.5. That was a fun day. And there'll be more. Okay, that's what we have.
Thanks, Kyle. I'll just mention Can Valley Fair, too. I don't think we're going to be meeting before that happens. That's July 1 through 4. Keep that on your calendar. Finance Committee.
We met on the 13th. A number of the items we had on our agenda tonight. We did some talk about our recycling. As I believe the numbers were public now, right? Or not? Okay, well, we'll talk about recycling then, and an update on the Fair Board. We're looking for an interim cleaning position. Zoom meetings will still be available. We talked about that. And like I said, everything else was on the agenda tonight. That's it.
Okay. Planning Commission.
The only thing we had on the planning commission was, we talked to Aaron Smith from Greensmith Builders about this annexation that we recommended to move forward with. And we all approved that unanimously and moved it on to the city council, and I think that's all we had, right, Dan? Yeah, that was all we had.
Okay. Library Board.
Nothing of note. Went over the budget, but they're talking about changing the board, like the CETA, the number of people on the CETA board.
Okay. Police Commission. I wasn't there.
You want to go? Or we're just in the process of hopefully hiring a new officer. So we picked our finalist, and now we're just going through the process.
Okay. Okay. Let's go around. Dan, anything tonight?
July 11th, tentatively, the contractor will be mobilizing to start the water tower work. Progressive Rail and the county have started working on the railroad crossings on 22. Once they get that done, they'll start on the one on 17. It's kind of in preparation for this mill and overlay project that the county is doing. The state's started blacktopping now downtown. Pool's been open 2 weeks, running good, I guess. Splash pad's running. The Archie Swenson Field #1 backstop is complete, so that's done. And we did have some vandalism at the concession stand at Archie Swenson Field. They damaged the door pretty well, so we're looking for some quotes on a new door. That's about it.
Do we have a time frame on when MnDOT will be done with the paving and stuff?
Well, tentatively this week, the paving will be done.
Okay.
July 1, is that what you heard? Or that's what they say?
I don't think they'll be completely out of town. There's a lot of restoral work to do, manhole adjustments, that type of thing.
They're telling the residents along the way July 1.
Okay,
And we're all hesitant.
let's go with that.
Well, they're actually saying July 1st, they're having 19 done, but they're going to have the work done out to the south too by July 1st, is the last I heard.
Well,
That's pretty aggressive,
yeah.
so I don't know. Keep your fingers crossed on that one. Sarah, anything tonight? Laura?
A couple things. The Cannonball property did close, so we should start seeing some asphalt moving and getting hauled out, so they'll start pushing that around soon. The other thing, I did sit in on a call today, even though it's not necessarily a city proper project, I'm going to keep my fingers in it just to keep everyone on top of it, but the Veterans Memorial Project did have a set in on a call with the excavator and the developer and their engineer today, and they're working with the county to get their permits so that they can start moving some dirt around by end of July. They are hoping to have some type of ribbon cutting on their phase 1 by the end of September, which again is aggressive. But they're hoping to get grading in for a partial road, parking lot, and then the grading for the first 4 of 8 athletic fields, and then a walking path around those 8. And then also signage installed for the park itself, like welcoming sign with a flagpole, with an American flagpole, so that you can see that from the road. So anyway, so that's kind of the goal for phase 1 for the summer. And that's just what I have for today.
Okay. Jeff?
Well, Mayor, you pointed out we won't meet before our fair occurs, so I just want to remind residents that, fair's coming up, first through the 4th. 4th, we'll have a parade, so there will be no parking restrictions on the parade route and some of the ancillary streets around it for emergency vehicle traffic. So that'll probably go up, I'm guessing, Friday. And, just be mindful that it really only applies for the 4th. If the residents are worried about having somebody come visit them over the weekend or something, just to be aware of that.
Very good. Diane?
No, she said, okay.
You say no?
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Sorry.
Neil?
Just on the Highway 19, I did get a call from MnDOT, and they're gonna move in and start paving Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. They should have the striping done by Tuesday. That's what they told me today, so that's just kind of an update from probably what Dan had heard even. Yeah, they're gonna, well, when they come in, they can get a lot of stuff done if they're moving along. Update on the fairgrounds and the fair board. WHKS did come out and do the survey work that is required for us to move forward on that. Waiting for the stuff to get it put into legal form, so that's moving along. And then at the last meeting, we had a liquor license application that we approved via the state, and I believe, Diane, that has been approved. Rancho Local.
Yeah, Rancho Local, they are relicensed, they are open for business, so we're really happy about that one.
With that said, our liquor license application area for the ordinance, it needs some work. And so Shelley and Diane and I are working on that, and you'll see that coming forward. There's a lot of stuff in there that just need to be cleaned up. And so we'll be bringing that forward here before too long. That's all I got.
Okay. Laura, anything?
Well, just going back to the Highway 19 project, just to clarify, that's a state project. I can't tell you how many people have complained to me, what are you people doing with these sidewalks? They don't.
You just make something up for them?
Right,
or-
yeah. I don't know what you people on the city council are thinking, widening the sidewalk. So just to clarify, it is a state project. It is not a city project. So,
We really didn't have any say in it anyhow.
right.
They just
Who
went,
knows when
That's
it was
all.
even first conceived?
Yep.
Just, yeah, I know.
Matt?
Nothing.
Bill?
Nothing.
Derek? Mary Jill? Steve?
A couple things. As you all know, you can see Dan driving around in a brand-new pickup. We finally got it from the dealer, so someday we'll get the plow put on it. Open Tuesday, okay, good. I was also asked to ask if there's a timeline on the Third Street Bridge approaches. getting those,
So we got a quote for the south approach, and we do have a punch list that has to be finished up by the contractor first.
oh, okay.
There's a structure underneath there that they need to put the iron on top before we can pave.
Oh, okay.
So, yep.
All right, thank you. That's all I got.
Okay. Just meetings coming up before our next meeting. The only one is the Joint Powers Trail Board on Tuesday, June 28th. Other than that, I'm going to reemphasize the Cannon Valley Fair, 1 through 4, put it on the calendar, it's coming up. By the time we have our next meeting, it'll be over, so. That's all I got. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Duncan, second by Gesme, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?